Welcome back to 15 on the Line. This is the podcast where we go inside the prison system through the experiences and stories of inmates and their loved ones. My name is Nakia Ford, and I am your host. My co-host, D.E. Robinson, will be on the line shortly. He is presently in a state prison. So we're going to do a recap show today. We're going to recap the interview I did with Louise. She is a wife and mother, and she's the spouse of a inmate who is presently in a state facility. It was a great interview. So let's get D.E. on the line.
Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Hey, D, you're on the line.
Hey, Nakia, how are you doing today?
You know what? I can't complain. I cannot complain. How about you?
You know what? That's what they say. Any day above ground is a good one, so I'm doing all right myself.
All right, well, let's get into it. So I just did an interview with Louise, and you listened to it. So how are you feeling about it?
Oh, wow. So much good stuff in there. You know, I'm a big fan of love. I love love. And so there's a lot that I want to get into with this particular episode.
Okay, so what stuck out to you the most?
Well, you know, this being in prison is a very difficult situation to begin with, and it's hard on people that you're with. But you know, she made this comment about how she knew that he was the one and that she believed he was innocent. Just listen to it in her own words.
What about this person or about you is like, he's it for me? I don't care where he is. He's it for me. What made you make that decision? Because most women would be like, I'm not doing it. But you said, no, you know, he's my man.
Yeah, and I get that. And I get why a lot of women would, you know, part of it was this, I always knew, you know, once we got together, I knew he was it for me. And I made it clear to him when he was sent away that it wouldn't change anything, that I was still planning on marrying him. Part of it, I think, is because of the situation. He is unfortunately one of the many that are in there for something he didn't do.
That's really deep, because when she told me initially when I had the interview, I was like, okay, you know, most people get married before people go to prison, and you did it afterwards. And that was I don't know, it was just mind-boggling to me, because most people would have been like, nah, I'm good. I don't know how long you're going to be in, so holler at me when you get out. But she didn't do that.
Right, and you know, even to the listeners, to anybody, you know, that type of decision would definitely be counterintuitive to something that happens. You know what I'm saying? Usually, it's, you know, I'm gonna see which way the wind blows, and then I'm gonna sign on or I'm gonna walk away. But she was like determined at the outset to do this thing. And that's an amazing decision to make, because there's so many factors that are involved.
Yeah, what stuck out to me was when she said, don't ostracize the families. So what do you want people to take away from your story?
So there's a couple things. Mainly, don't judge people, because you don't know the reasons behind everything. You know, and don't ostracize the families, because even if the inmates are guilty, don't ostracize the family because of their mistakes, especially the kids. It's not their fault. They have no control over any of it. So, you know, support the families in whatever way you can.
And I'm a proponent, because I have a T-shirt that says, you know, you never know what be kind. You never know what someone else is going through. And I think that's just a life lesson in general.
You know, it's interesting, you know, because being here, having spoken to a lot of different people that are in a lot of different situations, you really don't know. You know what I'm saying? And so families, people that are on the outside of the situation, always have advice, right? People that are not part of the problem always got something to say.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, girl, you don't need to be dealing with him. He da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You don't want your life ruined because his life is ruined. Like, I've heard this. You know what I'm saying? I've heard this kind of conversation.
But,
yeah,
But
Louise
they
is
do have a point. I
real.
mean, like obviously everybody that goes to prison is not a kind person or whatever. So their advice is not ill intentions, right? But and it's coming from a place of love, not a place of spite. So you can understand why people will say, "Hey, well, you know what? You're devoting all your time to somebody who's in prison. Why would you do that if you don't have to?" I mean, that makes sense.
Okay, and just being on the outside, just being on the outside looking in of that situation, it's I mean, well, being on the inside of the situation, I understand. It's a hard decision to have to make. There are a lot of different factors, obviously, that play into making that type of decision. For me, it becomes, how much do you believe in that person? Yes, I am the first person to tell you that there are people here that need to be here. It's just a fact. They didn't make prison just for it to be a hotel. There are people that need to be away from society, yes. But I think that anybody that is intimately involved with someone in the situation should be able to make that decision based on what they feel. Not, because other people have other agendas too. So that's just how I see things sometimes.
I also, another thing that stuck out with me was the fact that the economic aspect of it, because she had a really good job and she had two incomes in the house that were doing great, and then one income just vanished overnight, right? And now she's a single mother. She's a single, married and single at the same time, and now she has to depend on. She's from another country, a country where they take care of their citizens when it comes to aid and when it comes to medical care. So she's coming from that to here, and now she has to work part-time in order to be able to afford medical care for her child.
Right. And my heart breaks for that, that she leaves a system where had this happened over there, she would be okay. And she has to come here and decide whether to struggle in this system with a child or go back home where things would have been a lot smoother for her. And she chose to stay,
And I like her reasoning, because she said she did it because she wanted her son to have a relationship with his father. And a lot of people would have been like, he'll be okay. We'll send pictures. We'll send, postcards. We'll send letters. But she was like, I want to be, because she said that I assume they live close, because she says she sees him at least every week. So on a weekly basis, her husband is able to see her child grow up.
Right. And you know what? This is good for both the child and the father, because he still gets to be a father, and that's important. That's important. She made the comment that that he's at this age where he's aware of what's happening. He's aware of the situation, but in that same vein, he gets to build that emotional bond. He gets to build that relationship between father and son, not just through a voice and some pictures that come in the mail. And I think for the son, this is going to be a really good help for him as he grows up.
Yeah, it will be. It will. The one thing that kind of saves him is that this has been his normal, like his whole life. His father's been in prison, so he doesn't know anything different. However, he's 7, so he's not dumb. He knows. I'm pretty sure if he goes, she said he was homeschooled, so he's around. Not around a lot of kids all the time, but when he plays sports, I'm pretty sure there's dads there that are rooting for their sons, and so he's noticing these things, and probably, like I said, like in his 7-year-old way, what is he saying, showing that it's a problem, and he just, he wishes his dad were there. Who wouldn't?
Well, kids are very intuitive. Kids are very intuitive about things when it comes to their peers, right? So let's say he's at a soccer game, whatever, and he notices that all the other kids' dads are there, but his isn't. You know what I'm saying? He isn't unaware of this. Or other kids will be like, "Where's your daddy? How come your daddy isn't here?" Because kids are like that too. So I think that emotionally, um, him not having that answer, because even when I was a kid, my dad wasn't here. My dad was in the military. He was overseas. So whenever I did something, my dad wasn't present, and I was definitely very aware that other fathers were there, but mine wasn't. And I know how that made me feel sometimes. But the fact that he could see his dad every week and give him like that whole week experience of, Dad, I did this and I did that and da 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 da. And the father can give advice, he can joke with him and laugh with him and still give him that emotional support that he needs. The loss isn't as great, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that I commend Louise for being willing to do that for her son, because that is important.
It is important. I think it helps the fact that, one, she says she knows that without a shadow of a doubt that he was innocent. And she said, no matter what the outcome of the sentence, she knew she was going to marry him. I know that when I was younger, my dad wasn't around either. He wasn't in the military. He was just not around voluntarily. But I think it's a lot different between a young boy and his father and a girl and her father. Not saying that children don't need their fathers. Absolutely they do. But I think because I had my mother and she was so present and I was a girl,
right,
even though there were things I was missing out with my dad, there were men in my life, like my uncles, and people in the church. So it wasn't as bad for me.
Yeah.
And I was just always around my mom, so it was okay. And plus, it was my normal too. Like, he was never there, so you come in every once in a while, but he mostly wasn't there. So that was my normal. It wasn't like, I think maybe it would be different if like he was 4 years old and then his dad left, right? As opposed to he's always been gone. And I think that's kind of what mine was. He was always gone, so it was like, okay, he's just not there. That's just how it is, as opposed to having him and then losing him. I don't know.
Well, we've discussed and at other times that like as much as a mother will give to a son, she can't really teach him how to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I miss that aspect of my life growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Louise's son will have his father present in that time as he gets older to ask the questions that a son asks a father, because he's so embarrassed to ask his mother. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So he doesn't have to feel like the best advice he could get is from his friend who's the same age as him and knows just as much or less than he does, but he can go to his father, who he believes and feels is this giant fountain of wisdom, and say, "Hey, Dad, I got this going on. What do I do with this? Or what do I do with that? What do I do with that?" And the father can say, "Okay, son, I'm glad you asked, because I've been waiting on it, and here it is." Because I'm going to tell you something about fathers. Fathers want good fathers. Good fathers.
Say that again, because I'm like, fathers, not all fathers want, but good fathers do.
I mean, they want good fathers. Good fathers want to impart wisdom to their children so that their children will be better than they were. You know what I'm saying? Have better opportunities, see the world differently, all these types of things. And the fact that Louise wants that for her son, to the extent that she's willing to make these great sacrifices. Oh my goodness, the sacrifices. Like I said, I commend her. She is incredible, and I pray that her husband really, really, really understands, what she is doing in her efforts to keep that relationship between her husband and her son together.
Yeah, it's a big sacrifice. Like I'm saying, like I think we had talked about it earlier on another episode. I think it was when Lawrence, how he found
16 seconds remaining.
He found love in prison, but this is something totally different because they were in a relationship before he went to prison. And so they had solidified like a working relationship, how they pay bills together, all these things, as opposed to just finding it later on. And like if you meet someone who's in prison, okay, that's your normal, as opposed to having your whole
You have 30 seconds remaining.
we have 30 seconds.
Yeah. So listen, listeners, if you have a story, please give us a story. If you're in a situation like this, let us hear it. God, we thank you for everything that you're doing. Continue to do with this show and the people that listen to it. And always, may grace and peace be upon you.
May grace and peace be upon you. Thank you so much for joining us today, DE. I can't wait to talk to you again. And for you who have been watching faithfully, thank you so much for watching. We can't wait to talk to you on the next episode. May peace and grace be upon you. Talk to you soon. You can contact us on Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. 15 on the Line is an Abundant Faith Media Group production. Thank you for watching, and be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment.